Greetings, friends. Prepare for another thrilling journey as we delve into Reddit's most bizarre tales. We're plunging deep into the quirkiest corners of the web. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Remember to hit subscribe and like. Let's begin. Hello, I'm a 21-year-old husband married to my 34-year-old wife, and we have an 8-month-old son. Here's our story. I was born and raised in the Midwest of America, while my wife is from Quebec, Canada. We met online through video games and immediately felt a deep connection. At the time, I had just turned 18 and was struggling with severe depression and emptiness, while she was fit, beautiful, and full of life. A few weeks after we started talking, she decided to drive down to meet me for a weekend. We stayed at a hotel, and she ended up getting pregnant. However, a week or two later, she had a miscarriage, which was devastating for both of us since we both wanted a family and felt we were perfect for each other. A month later, I applied for and received a passport. A few weeks after that, I flew to Canada and moved in with her in a beautiful scenic town by a river and mountain. Our little apartment was cozy and things seemed perfect. This is when things started to go very wrong. We realized that she couldn't keep her job as a flight attendant and stay together at the apartment because she would be away for up to 2 months at a time, leaving me with no food during the harsh Canadian winter in a predominantly French-speaking province. She ended up quitting her job of over 7 years, and we started doing Uber Eats deliveries, while I also relied on my supplementary income and help from my grandfather to get by. We did this for almost the entire duration of our 10-month lease. The financial strain and stress of staying together began to cause arguments, and the paradise we had envisioned slowly turned into a nightmare. Around Valentine's Day, she got pregnant again. This time, we were both extremely excited but also scared because I had to leave soon. So we started doing everything we could to stay together. We both signed to get married, and after struggling to gather enough money, eventually tied the knot. Just before my 6-month stay was up, we managed to extend my visitor visa for another 6 months. I don't know what caused me to act this way, whether it was immaturity, fear, or extreme stress, but I changed after we got married. I became lazy and obsessed with escaping reality, while she was trying her best to keep us together. She decided that we needed to go to America to stay together, so she started signing all the necessary paperwork and cancel our lease renewal. As our lease ended, we packed her car to the brim and set off for the border, excited to start our life together and have our child. However, at the border, we were stopped and questioned for hours. They turned us away because we had too much stuff in her car, a Mustang. This situation left us devastated, as we had no place to stay and were 4 hours away from her parents late at night. We panicked and had a mental breakdown. We eventually found a hotel that would accept us after hours of searching. But the troubles didn't end there. As we pulled up to the hotel, she told me she felt strange and might be losing the baby. I grabbed everything we needed and rushed to the front desk, where we had to explain what was happening because there was blood on her legs. We hurried to a bathroom, and as she sat down, we experienced the heartbreak of seeing what was supposed to be our beautiful baby. We both broke down, crying the whole night, devastated by the loss of our hopes and dreams in just a few hours. We didn't even have time to grieve properly because we needed a place to stay and had very little money. Her parents allowed us to stay with them while we figured out our next steps. I couldn't have made a worse impression on them. While staying at their place, I felt uncomfortable seeing pictures of her ex, the father of her first son, which made me feel insecure and unwelcome. Just to clarify, she was 18 when she had her first son, and her ex cheated on her while she was pregnant, leading her to give up custody because he had a stable job and could provide better. This is her story, so I don't know all the details. Also, I'm her first husband, and this is the first serious relationship she's had since then. She shared horror stories of her exes who cheated and mistreated her. Back to our timeline, we stayed at her parents' house and slept in her old room, which was once her son's room and felt small and awkward, as it was basically the attic. By this point, I was no longer myself. I had given up, and her parents were concerned about me as I spent most of my time being distant, lazy, and playing games on her laptop, while she reconnected with her family and tried to return to normalcy. It was eventually decided that I would return to America, and we would figure things out over time. But as weeks passed, we realized she hadn't started her period, which concerned her because it could be a serious situation. We arrived at the hospital and had to wait an excruciating 12 hours before a doctor finally saw her. Free healthcare can be a real challenge sometimes. Eventually, they ran some tests and performed an ultrasound, revealing a 16 to 20-week-old baby. This revelation completely upended our lives, stirring a whirlwind of emotions. We went from losing hope to discovering we still had a baby, which was both a relief and a new source of anxiety. We began planning to move to America, but as the weeks passed, I started to deteriorate mentally and emotionally. She noticed, and her parents even questioned if I was the right partner for her. Determined to make one last attempt at crossing the border before my visa expired, we were incredibly fortunate to be allowed through almost immediately. It felt like everything was finally going our way. For a few days, as we traveled to my grandparents' house, we were on cloud nine. However, she soon noticed that I was still distant emotionally and physically neglecting her as I sought solace in screens and friends. I quickly found my first job and worked hard enough to secure us an apartment. Soon after, we welcomed our miracle baby boy. I was present for the entire delivery, which lasted 2 days, and the exhaustion and anxiety took their toll. Once we were moved to another room, I essentially shut down and slept for 3 days while she cared for our newborn. This really affected her deeply, and I regret it immensely. It was a sign of how I would behave in the future. After returning home, I reverted to my old habits, spending 4 months on parental leave doing nothing but indulging in entertainment, which gradually destroyed her perception of me. Not long after, I lost my job. The stress of her not having her green card and visa sorted out, combined with my inaction, led to her snapping and physically confronting me during arguments. This escalated over time, even though I eventually found a new job. By then, the damage was done. Any love and connection she felt for me had vanished, and I ended up sleeping on the couch, working a third shift job at a steel factory that paid poorly. Around my birthday, my grandmother, who had practically raised me, suffered a severe stroke. She was left untreated for an entire night, which led to her being rushed to the ER and placed on life support. She began to deteriorate slowly, and not wanting her to be alone, I took her into my apartment. After a week of round-the-clock care, she passed away in front of me, my grandfather, and my wife at 11 o'clock a.m. 3 weeks after her burial, my wife and I had a major argument, leading to the worst mental breakdown I've ever experienced. I called off work and haven't returned since. The next day, she told me our relationship was over. Throughout our 12-month lease at the apartment, we grew further apart, becoming little more than roommates. This is entirely my fault, and I know it. She sacrificed everything to be with me, and I repeatedly let her down. She gave me countless chances, and I squandered them all. I still remember her pleading with me to wake up, to be the man she fell in love with, but I didn't. I promised to change but didn't follow through, taking her for granted. We both had our issues, but my biggest failing was getting too comfortable and giving up long before we even made it to America. She would have done anything for me, and now she resents me. I've realized far too late that my family was everything I wanted, and now it's slipping away. Soon they will return to Canada, taking my son with them. He will grow up speaking only French and will rarely see me in person. There is so much more to this story, with many details left out. This is just a brief summary, offering a glimpse into the last 3 years of our lives. I still love my wife and would do anything to keep my family together, but it seems too late. My only hope is to show her over time that I have changed and perhaps, one day, have my family back. However, that path is long and uncertain.